Gina Hartley, you are professor at Open University, and you have worked with on public innovation for quite a long time. How was you introduced to the concept of public value?
I first became interested in the public value as a concept because I went to go and work with Mark Moore at the Kennedy School at Harvard University. We used to take a group of public managers, students, to Harvard to run a course on innovations in governance.
You were at Warwick then?
I was at Warwick then, yes. So we had a course which we jokingly called Old and New England because it was public managers from Massachusetts, Connecticut and around there, and managers from the UK. So I met Mark, I heard him lecture and do case studies. I also had to do some lectures and case studies myself on innovation. And over the course of about 3 weeks, 3 different modules that we ran, I started to really get interested in the idea of public value as helping us to understand innovation. So I got into public value through innovation, really.
And it has been quite a debate after '95 and the book, Mark Moore came with the book. What is your impression of this debate during the years, for 2 decades now?
Well, I think it's been a seminal book. It's been a really important book because it's really shaped quite a lot of thinking about public management. But I think also the debate has moved on since Mark wrote his original book. So I think it was very important in trying to move beyond the idea that had been very prevalent at that time about the importance of new public management and the focus on measures and indicators of outputs. But I think public value helps to create a shift from thinking about just outputs to thinking about outcomes. So what is it that we're trying to think about when we think about what effective organisations and partnerships and networks are trying to achieve?
In the first period, I remember Rhodes and one as a critic, but has it been a development in the critic over the years? Have the discussions developed, you think?
Yes, I think they have. I think the other book that I think is really very valuable is the book that Mark wrote with John Bennington, which is called Public Value Theory and Practice, which I guess John has talked about a little bit. But I think one of the things I find interesting about that is the need to think about the political context within which public value is discussed and debated, and the idea that public value cannot be determined just by public managers, but actually also involves discussion and debate both with elected politicians and also with citizens and the public.
So you would say that's the strengths of the concept in some sense?
The strengths of the concept are, well, I think they're multiple. I think one is this focus on thinking about what is it that we're trying to achieve. So outcomes, not just processes or outputs. I think that's really important. I think the strategic triangle has turned out to be a very valuable way of helping public managers think about their jobs and about how to make their jobs both innovative but also manageable by thinking about the 3 corners of the strategic triangle: the public value proposition, legitimacy and support, and operational developing operational resources. So I think that's really helpful.
How do you think the concept can be elaborated further?
I think in a number of ways. One is, I think, when Mark Moore originally developed the work, he focused it very much around public managers and the idea of what public value public managers could create. I think what we've realised since is that public value can be created by a range of actors in the public sphere. So they might work in public organisations, but they might work in voluntary or community organisations, or they might work in the private sector, they might be community activists, they might be elected politicians. So I think we can take the concept of public value and see the work of creating public value as being created not just by public managers but by a number of other people. And also we can think about public value being destroyed, not just created. So some people's work, some people's actions actually destroy or reduce public value. So we shouldn't always think of this positive, constructive outcomes from people's behaviour and decisions.
So public value destruction is a usual part of the concept. Yeah?
Yes, and actually I think we should look at that in a bit more detail. I think otherwise we're just slightly in danger of idolising public managers who are innovative or creative or who add public value, but we also need to analyse and think about the actions of people who actually reduce public value.
Thank you, Jean, for joining time with us.
Okay, good. Very pleased to be here.